What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, let's dive into a little thing we call the Middlekauff Mailbag. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs and get your questions answered here on the show. We will start with Dylan. Question for the pod. Love the show. But I've been hearing quite a bit of Rams slander and a lot toward Jimmy G, saying the Rams have no chance at the playoffs if Jimmy G is playing. I know Jimmy's last outing with the Raiders wasn't pretty, but they did not have a serious head coach or team surrounding him in any sense. Last time Jimmy was on a good team, he led them to the Super Bowl and then again to the NFC Championship. I believe this is his best roster Sean McVay has had, and with lots of depth. With that being said, do you think Jimmy G just has regressed as a quarterback and doesn't have the capability of leading a good team to the playoffs? Or do you think Shanahan just was a much better coach than McVay? Yeah, no. I mean, I think a lot of people would say McVay's better than Shanahan. He's got a Super Bowl. Kyle doesn't. And these last couple years, last year's a good example of like Kyle went 6-11 and Sean, went on a pretty good run. But, and listen, I think when Kyle's on, he's damn good too. But my point about Jimmy is independent of Bill Walsh or Andy Reid coaching him. I think he has so many injuries that he regressed as a player within the pocket. And there's a level of his frenetic nature. He's never been the most accurate player. He just has physical limitations. And then over the course, he's torn an ACL. He's fucked up a thumb. He shattered a foot. He just has a lot of wear and tear for a guy that started early on in his career as a backup. So, I think he's regressed as a player. Now, if Matt Stafford, if you tell me he can play 12 games this season, could the Rams make the playoffs? 100%. Could they win some games with Jimmy Garropolo? Yes. If you tell me Jimmy Garropolo is the full-time starter 17 games and Matt Stafford's just gone, then I think they would have some problems. And I would not pick them. I mean, they won 10 games last year with Stafford playing. Big listener, daily listener, big fan. Do you truly hate the Raiders? Oh, this has got to be an old school email. It seems like anytime they get brought up, when something good happens, you throw a wrinkle into it. I'm very pro Raiders. John Spytek, love that guy. Huge Pete Carroll guy. I am pro the operation. I think Spytek's going to be an excellent GM in the NFL for a long time. My true question would be, do you feel Denver and the Chargers are much better football team than the Raiders? I do feel like that, or I don't feel like that. Obviously a Raider fan, but would like to hear your thinking on the matter. I think the Denver Broncos are much better than you guys. I think offensively, Geno's solid. He's definitely an upgrade. Ashton Jeanty, we saw him in a preseason game. He went to the Blue 10 after a stinger. So we'll get into a Jeanty question here a little later. Brock Bowers is a superstar. Crosby's a superstar. But your wide receiver core is pretty questionable. You have a good defensive coordinator and a good defensive head coach in Pete. But do you have enough weapons and personnel on the defensive side of the ball? I mean, this is not their fault. They drafted that kid a couple years ago from Texas Tech, Wilson, who does not look very good. So they've just had some misses in the draft. I think they're a year away to me from being a playoff team. I'd be stunned if, you can be last place in that division and have a really good season. Middlekauff, big fan of the show. Found your stuff a year ago, been hooked. My question is this. Do players, coaches, front office personnel that work for an NFL team secretly still cheer for their childhood squad? How did you handle your 49er fandom while employed by the Eagles? Lifelong Giants fan here. And I think I'd rather resign from the NFL than work in Dallas. It's a good question. I think it's hard to relate this situation to most jobs. Because for most people, there's not a personal connection of hey, man, I just got this incredible gig with I don't know, Bank of America. You should see the contract that Oracle just put in front of me. Like, you would be loyal to these companies if they're Amazon. Just, you should see what Bezos is going to have me do. Where you grow up as a little kid, probably not idolizing the company you work for. Where if you're a big football fan, you probably like football since you were really young. I do think, like, relating that to the industry stuff, when you start working in quote unquote the business, you do naturally become a little numb to it. Now, for me, like a lot of people in my life are Niner fans, and like I root for the Niners if I have money on them or I'm just casually watching them, but I don't like live and die like I did when I was a little kid. And I think a huge piece of that truly died when I went to the NFL, just because you're spending, 18 hours a day in this office. Like, I want the Eagles to win, because if they win, that's good for me financially, for my career. And then I got into the business I'm in now. Someone asked me actually the last couple of days at Fox about that situation, like with my fandom, what I root for. I'm like, honestly, I just kind of root for stories. If you tell me that this will double my listenership, I'm rooting for that. This is my business. This is what I want. So I think you just kind of become numb to it. Like most of you, whatever industry you're in. I was telling Maria this the other night. We were watching some show. There was a doctor involved. I'm like, the crazy thing about doctors is how numb they are if you're a doctor in the ER to tragedy, right? Or just if you're we're having a baby. Think about all the doctors that literally deliver babies, how numb they get to just delivering a life, move on, next one. It's kind of like that in this business. Though I still love football. I love talking about football, but my true fandom, like, it's just way, way different. And I think if you loved football and you were working in football and you grew up a diehard Giants fan, and Jerry Jones is like, I want you to run the fucking Cowboys. Like, you would show up, he'd show you the office, you'd start being like, I get to run the draft. Your tune would change pretty quick. I promise you. Are you ready for the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl, John? I think they could be pretty good. Why is it somehow recognized by the media that Drake May is a hit and Caleb is not? Including Colin, who constantly states that Jaden, Bo, and Drake are hits, and we're waiting on Caleb. Caleb had a better year by all accounts and showed much more flashes and was being held back in terms of throwing down the field and avoiding turnovers, and showed just as much flashes and held back. Decided to take some dumb sacks instead, which could have been 25 touchdowns and 12 picks like Bo Nix with a worse situation. I think they're both in the same situation. I don't judge either of their rookie seasons. Like, I think Drake May is an intriguing player, just like Caleb Williams, but I can't judge any of his production last year. In most of the games, he was down. His coaching was a joke. I think both guys are big question marks. I think there has been less noise around Drake May than Caleb this offseason. I think you would say that Josh and Vrabel are just an easier landing spot because they're going to be very run heavy. They have a defensive head coach. It's just going to be a quieter place, where the Bears and Caleb are more of just a marquee story. So I think that's part of it too. He was the number 1 overall pick. He was the most hyped draft pick in a long time. He's just a highly polarizing individual the way we talk about him. So I think there are a lot of factors like that as well. But I don't think you can consider Drake May a hit yet. I would not give him a hit. I would say the one for sure hit, Jaden Daniels a hit. Like, who's fucking anyone want to argue against that? Like, I don't have the energy or the time. I would say it's going to be pretty hard to bet against Bo Nix. I don't know how good he's going to be, but like, his coach is Sean Payton. Their team's good. Like, he's going to be solid. I think we just have a lot of unknown with all the other quarterbacks. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets. Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back, baby. Think you know the game? Put your college football knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. From live betting during the rivalry week odds boosts and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from the kickoff to the final whistle. Here's the thing. We got a top 25 matchup happening this week in Ireland. Iowa State taking on K-State. I've been listening to a lot of people. My guy Josh Pate, Iowa State, a little bit of a sleeper this year. You can get them right now. Odds are subject to change. Kind of like Iowa State +3 this week. Across the pond, Iowa State +3. I think I'm going to hammer it. So here's something special for first timers. New customers bet just $5 to get 200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers. Get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Chiefs season ticket holder. What's your take on the Chiefs' chances of returning to and winning the Super Bowl? These guys, you guys are living well, man. You guys are living really, really well. You just talk about, like, can we get back to the Super Bowl for the 6th time in 7 years? Our division is tougher. The Broncos and Chargers possibly the 4th and 5th best AFC teams. Still, I believe Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes can win the division and compete for the number 1 seed. Is the media sleeping on Josh Simmons, a potential draft steal? If he's a top 10 left tackle, our offense we could fix our offense with our lack of explosive plays. With Travis and Chris Jones aging, can our defense draft picks keep the defense strong while Pat and Andy carry the offense? I think if he's a top 10 left tackle immediately, that's one of the better draft picks we've seen in recent memory. You get a top 10 left tackle at pick 31. If that happens, which by all accounts, I mean, Texas with the one thing when my buddies with the Chiefs, their expectations are so high. They don't create the media hype. Like, obviously, he's very talented. He was going to be a top 8, 10 pick if he hadn't blown out his knee. But I think people are very hesitant. Like, the Chiefs have played in the most important games in the playoffs and obviously the Super Bowl for the last 6, 7 years. So, like, just doing it in practice, you don't get a gold star for that. Like, okay, what are you going to look like in November against Denver when you're tired and we're on CBS, or, we're on Romo and Nance are calling the game, or we're on NBC, or we're on primetime against the Bills? Like, how are you playing then? Like, the standard is really, really high. So I think they're very quick to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Not that they're not excited, but one of these years, someone's going to knock them off in the playoffs. It's just going to happen. So I've bet on it the last couple of years, and it's blown up in my face. So I'm just done betting against them. Though it's going to be really, really difficult. But Coward today had the Broncos in his herd hierarchy above the Chiefs. I said, Colin, the Broncos haven't won a playoff game in almost 10 years. The Chiefs just won the AFC for like the 3rd straight year. I mean, there's no way that they couldn't even be the highest rated team in their own division, let alone having the Ravens and Bills above them. They beat those two teams in the playoffs every single year. So if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm pretty cocky. Until someone beats us, I'm feeling good about our chances and really, really excited about the left tackle. But if he becomes a high-end left tackle, that obviously it's a great pick, but I think there'd be a lot of teams around the league like, why'd you pass on this guy? When you were recently talking about the Rams and their potential debacle at quarterback, why not mention Stetson Bennett? I'm a Dog fan, so I'm a bit biased, but do you not think he has a chance to step in for Jimmy Garropolo? Love the show. Maybe maybe it's bias. I didn't take him that seriously in college. They draft him, which I think a lot of people thought that, like, you're going to draft this guy, and then he disappears. Obviously had some, substance, whatever issues, which people go through stuff. I know people have been bullish on him, but I just not my cup of tea. I don't know what else to tell you. Not my cup of tea. If he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong. But I'd rather play against him than play with him in the NFL. Incredible college career. Great story, right? Shows up, walks on, leaves, comes back, leads them to Natties. Leads them to Natties is strong. Is part of national championships. Question for the bag. I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan. Jerry has basically admitted he's more interested in the drama than winning. With both hands figuratively tied behind his back, what is Brian Schottenheimer's path for coaching a successful football team? It's a great question, man. I do think now it's not even debatable, seeing some of Jerry's quotes about his love of all this stuff. I mean, the documentary that's coming out, there was an all-time quote today by Michael Irvin that I think he gave to People magazine, that in the documentary that's coming out on Netflix about the White House, which is not the White House in D.C., it's the White House that was in Dallas that they put their hookers and drugs in. This is Michael Irvin. I just wanted to read this quote. We had 5 rooms, and in that room, you may be smoking weed. This room, you may be doing X or some blow, whatever. There was a group of girls in each room, and you just kind of bounced from room to room. Think about what Michael Irvin just said. I mean, this was as good of like a 5-year stretch of football that has ever been played in the NFL, and they were just banging hookers and doing drugs. And OKC this year, when they won the NBA Finals, half their team had never tried a beer. Meanwhile, this team is taking out Brett Favre and Steve Young in the 49ers on X after just banging 2 hookers. I mean, it's just an all-time squad. But I think ever since that moment, I don't know if Jerry got cocky, emboldened. He just won't really listen to anybody. And now he's at the point, because I was thinking about this today. Think of the disadvantage Jerry is up against, where Jeffrey Lurie is obviously the Eagles and the Cowboys have a big rivalry. Jeffrey Lurie, really rich guy like Jerry, owned the team for a long period of time. But he goes, you know what? I'm going to let Howie Roseman do all my football stuff. Like, keep me in the loop. I'll give you my opinions time to time, but you run it. Meanwhile, Jerry goes, I'm going to run it. Jerry, you're in your 80s. What are you doing? When the New York Giants were winning Super Bowls with Tom Coughlin and Jerry Reese, that ownership group was like, you guys do it all, man, and we'll reap the benefits. Now with the Commanders, that they're probably going to be good, what did they do? They're like, hey, we're going to hire Adam Peters, and you hire Dan Quinn, and you guys do it. So when you guys have a football issue, you run point on it. There was a story the other day about Brian Robinson Jr., dude who got shot a couple years ago, that they might trade him. And you know who sat down and talked to him? Not the owner, the GM and the head coach. Dan Quinn and Adam Peters talked. In those situations, Jerry's always running point. I understand it to a point. Like, the football stuff is the fun stuff, but it's not working. And honestly, it feels like it's getting worse. Earlier this year, I was kind of like, I was bullish on the Cowboys because sometimes if everyone's hanging a right, I just like, I'll hang a left on this one. It's like I could see a path and I'm just like, I don't know. How is Brian Schottenheimer, a guy that no one was going to hire to be a head coach, that most people on his team don't even realize that his dad was once a famous head coach, is going to be able to handle the situation? I don't think it's possible. So I think this thing could get really, really weird. They are an injury or 2 away. What if when they finally sign Micah Parsons, what if he's not right? And what if it just looks kind of weird? I don't know. What are you going to say now that Ashton Jeanty, is he still too small after running through Diamador Lenore's teeth? Well, I hope he can run over a corner. He did hit a linebacker and go to the ground and then go to the blue tent. I'm not anti-Ashton Jeanty. The guy's a stud. I just, get a little nervous with smaller guys from small programs. Obviously, he's built like a little tank, but you can't just run over guys in the NFL. It's not going to last. First collision he had, he went to the blue tent. I think Ashton Jeanty could have a long, illustrious career and be a very, very productive player. But you can't just lower your shoulder on every guy in front of you. That's not a way to sustain in the NFL. What Adrian Peterson did is not normal. Question for the bag. We're all watching Hard Knocks, and I know you are too. Was wondering if you could talk about the Bills specifically in the job Brandon Beane is doing, and Sean McDermott, as Colin says, a hoist the trophy guy. Josh Allen is so elite, but do you see the offensive weapons it takes around him? Defense. Thanks, John. Defense, question mark. I think the Bills are going to be pretty good. Maybe I'm just buying into the Hard Knocks hype. Maybe it's the way they splice together the highlights. Josh looks like a guy in the peak of his powers that has kind of mastered the sport. Obviously, defensively, I don't know how they beat the Ravens last year. Obviously, they got helped out by a couple drops. I think offensively, they're going to be pretty awesome. I mean, Cook's a stud. I think Keon Coleman's going to come into his own. They have high hopes for their tight end group. They drafted Kincaid high a couple years ago, Dalton Knox. Shakir, I think he's injured now, but he's a stud. I think they're going to be fine. I think there's a 50-50 chance they're the number 1 seed. I expect them to win 14 plus games. Okay, final week of the season for LIV Golf wraps up a little Midwest swing, starting in Chicago, where I attended, then went to Indianapolis, and finishes up this week with the team championship. Jon Rahm won the individual title, 18 milli, beat out Joaquin Niemann, who won 5 times this year. And now we go to the team championship, which got a little Ryder Cup feel, going match play the first couple days, singles and foursomes, to heading into the final day where it'll just be normal stroke play. And Jon Rahm obviously won the individual title. I like Legion 13, his squad, to win the whole thing and just keep collecting those checks and finish out the season in Michigan before guys like Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Tyrrell Hatton head to the Ryder Cup here in a couple weeks in New York at Bethpage, where I kind of like the Euros. But, yeah, should be a fun week in Michigan. Hopefully anyone there enjoys it. It's been a good little Midwest swing for the team championship. Huge fan of the pod. Appreciate your knowledge/platform. Do you think Mahomes is oddly underrated? While Mahomes is looking up at a small group of players above him, Brady, Manning, all time, everybody is ranking Lamar and Allen above him. I get his regular season numbers are low these last 2 seasons, but this has been a heavily injured team, and yet they have always made the AFC Championship game. Hell, he's basically always made, if it wasn't for his first year starting against Tom Brady and the year Joe Burrow, which I don't know what the hell happened to the Chiefs in the second half of that game, but he would have been in basically a Super Bowl every single year he's played. I think he's underrated because we're in a stats-based culture. Most people, the easiest way for them to argue about someone is to quantify it in sports, right? He scores this many points. He threw this many touchdowns. He ran for this many yards. So the last couple of years, his stats haven't been as good as the guys that, are his peers, right? Joe Burrow, obviously Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Yet in back-to-back years in the AFC Championship game, he's made enormous plays against both those guys to end their seasons. Especially, he outplayed Lamar a couple years ago. And Josh, you just have more faith in Patrick Mahomes when it matters and it's all on the line than any guy in the NFL. And you said he's looking up at Brady and Manning. Peyton's one of the best players I've ever seen in any sport, but he's got 2 total Super Bowls and he went to 4. So Patrick's already been to more Super Bowls and won more Super Bowls than Peyton Manning. Now, will he ever eclipse him from an individual accolade standpoint, the MVPs? Probably not, but I think when it's all said and done, Patrick will rank ahead of Peyton. Fair or not, and we could make arguments, definitely sitting here today, but Patrick's, how old is Patrick Mahomes? 30 years old? 29 years old? He's got a lot of years to play football. Love the podcast. Got a thought, something for the mailbag if you do one in the near future. Today I was watching some clips of Fields, that'd be Justin Fields, being god-awful on some short to intermediate throws, all caps, in practice. I don't know why there's such a big crowd of people who think he hasn't been given a fair chance or an organization just didn't put enough pieces around him, quote, Chicago. And while I don't think he's been in a perfect situation by far, when I watch him play, I just don't see it. I don't think he's a starting NFL quarterback. He's a great athlete and a hell of a runner, but I don't see anything that says anything besides he's going to be a backup quarterback when I watch him play. I think the Jets are crazy to rely on him for this upcoming year. So basically a question, am I missing something or being unfair to think he is what he is at this point? I would agree. He has not been in the perfect situations, and I liked him a lot coming out of college. I remember thinking the Jets and the 49ers are crazy for taking Zach Wilson and Trey Lance over Justin Fields. And that year with Ohio State, with Ryan Day, he looked good. But I remember one of the stories coming out was like Kyle didn't think he saw it well enough and processed and could operate his offense. And clearly LaFleur, who was with the Jets, agreed. And when you watch him play, he just operates really, really slow. And he's not a very accurate touch passer. He has good physical gifts. He's kind of like a version of Anthony Richardson, probably a better version of Anthony Richardson, where it's like you like a lot of the stuff that he has. Strong arm, athletic, explosive plays. But like most of quarterback play is like throw a quick out, like run a quick slant. Like most of Patrick Mahomes, especially like this last like 3 years, has not been just throwing go routes for touchdowns. It's a lot of like, oh, it's 3rd and 6. He got 7 yards on a slant. He had a great like 10-yard comeback to continue a drive in a tie game in the fourth quarter. Like that's kind of football. Or it's like, you know what? His first, second read wasn't open. He had an incredible, he scrambled to his left and made a play. It feels like those guys, Fields, everything's kind of in slow motion. And then when he does release it, it's late and the ball's off. And one thing I saw Shane Steichen talked about today, part of the decision-making process was like ball placement. Like sometimes it's not even just accuracy, completion or not completion, assuming that they're in practice, right? Because this, JJ Watt and some of the reporters nationally were getting into it. Like, should we care about practice stats or not? Because if you just say, hey, so-and-so quarterback at training camp went 11 for 15 today, and 2 of the incompletions were drops. And then the coach might say, well, when we broke down the film, 3 of those 11 completions in a game would have been problematic. They were not accurate. If they were playing a good corner, might have been picked off or tipped. So it's like you got to put context in with everything. So when you watch Fields play, it just feels off. I do think they were a little desperate in New York. They wanted to get off Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. Listen, I don't care how much he makes. It doesn't bother me. But the NFL is a salary cap league. So when you pay a player X amount of dollars, that is the difference of you having, if you pay him $10 million or you pay him $20 million, that's the difference of you being able to buy other players or invest into your own team, re-sign guys. And they gave him 2 years, $40 million. I think guaranteed him $30 million. Like, who are they? What were the Steelers interested in numbers like that? They benched him last year in the middle of the year. So I don't know. Maybe Aaron Glenn just really liked him because as a runner, but I think they're passing it. I think the Jets could be like one of those teams that's tough, that's physical, that tries hard, and it's just bad. Like Aaron Glenn's a good coach, good guy. I think the effort and the energy, like the give a shit factor is going to be high, but I don't think they're going to function at all. And I think offensively, they are going to be a tough watch.